In the Mindful Pilates today, I want us to begin with one of the principles of Pilates. So here's what we've discussed so far. We've discussed becoming aware, achieving balance, meaning balanced action throughout the body, breathing correctly is what Pilates says, and then today, concentrating deeply. So I just want to read you the first paragraph from Rael Isasowicz's book called Pilates. I view concentration as a bridge between awareness and movement. As you establish the starting position for each movement, I encourage you to go through a checklist of important information. What muscles you need to recruit, how you should align your body, and what is your chosen breath pattern. Simply by concentrating on a particular muscle prior to the action, you can activate it more accurately and intensely than if you don't think about it. Concentrating on your body alignment can help you recruit the correct muscles and avoid unnecessary strain in the body. Concentrating on the breath pattern will help you maintain a good rhythm for the movement and keep your mind focused. However, and this is really important, keep in mind that concentration can be so intense that it becomes counterproductive. It can morph into tension, which leads to tightening of the musculature, a restriction of the breathing, and a halting rather than a flowing of movement. This is clearly not the intention and should be avoided. So it is this fine line, right? And it makes me think that it's why I teach this balance. We've brought Qigong into the mix because it helps us find that easeful flow, right? And it does actually also develop concentration on the movement. But we have this, and then we come into Pilates for this kind of intense awareness of how do we want to activate for our best well-being. And they kind of meet together in our yoga practice. That's what I'm feeling lately. So today, I do want you to feel into your bodies. What muscles do I want to activate here? And can you actually make a conscious connection between your mind and, oh yeah, I need to recruit these muscles? You may not know their names, you may just know their sensations. And if you're like, I have no idea, then start feeling which muscles are active in the different exercises. How does that sound? Good? Okay. Let's start today. This is going to feel very new, except for those of you who are way back in the day in the studio. Let's start on our backs. Have your ball and your TheraBands handy. So Pilates mat work typically begins on the floor, and we work our way up towards working with it in balance in body movement. So let's come to the floor. Put a pillow under your head if that helps you bring your hairline and chin even. Please don't have the pillow under your neck. Just have it supporting the head so that you have your natural cervical curve to the spine. And then open your palms up and begin to sway your pelvis a little side to side in your somatic walking, pressing one foot into the floor and then the other. You're rocking across your pelvis, side to side. And notice right now if there's any tension in your body that you can release. Perhaps there's tension in the face and the eyes or the jaw. Feel into those. Which tensions can you let go of? Rocking the pelvis. Now feel into your shoulder girdle and neck. Again, what tension can you let go of? Relax the length of your arm and into the palms of your hands and your fingers. And begin to relax your way down the spine. noticing the tight spots and inviting them to release a little. I find myself kind of swaying my shoulders a little side to side to release in my thoracic spine of my rib cage. And then pause the movement of your hips. And let's tilt the pelvis a different direction, reaching the tailbone for the sky and then the tailbone for the earth. And just again, feel into the rock of the pelvis, with your concentration being more on what can I release than which muscle do I activate. We'll get there. First, we want a fluid spine, a spine that we can elongate. So we rock the pelvis. Just feel into any tightness or stiffness. And notice how the rock of the pelvis will rock the head and the shoulder girdle too. You may even feel the movement down your arms. It's all connected. And now become still and reach for your ball and place your ball between your knees, feet still on the floor, and gently pulse into the ball. You're going to hug the ball with your thighs. Heels are still sit bone distance wide, and we pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold, pressing into the ball. Feel the activation of your inner thighs. And now consciously activate your outer hips, your outer buttocks, and hug them towards the ball too. Those are the banks of your river. And release and rest. Rest the inner thighs, rest the outer hips. And now activate inner thighs, outer hips as you pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold. Hug in the banks of your river all the way down the outsides of the legs. Hug in those inner banks of the inner thighs, down the inner thighs to the inner feet. And relax. And one more time, activate inner thighs and outer hips. Pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold. Concentrate on the outer line of the leg, gently hugging midline. Doesn't mean that you force everything together. You're just hugging midline. It doesn't have to be at 110%. Feel your inner thighs also hug into the ball and that inner line of the legs. And then keeping your knees where they are, hugging the ball, straighten your left leg. So now your left leg is out at this diagonal, and you're going to pulse the ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold. Feel for inner thighs and outer hips and outer length of the leg. Try to keep your neutral lumbar curve, your shoulders relaxed, your face relaxed. And release the lifted leg. And float the other leg up straight. And as you're ready, pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold. Hugging your ball, hug in your glutes. Stabilize the pelvis. What muscles are you recruiting? And release. And pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold. And release. Release the ball from between your legs and float one leg to tabletop and the other to follow. Now you're aware of inner thighs and outer hips. Bring your heels together and open your knees as wide as your shoulders. Press your heels together. Again, feel your adductors at the inner thigh. And activate on purpose your outer hip and toe dip one foot and bring the heel back to heel and the other foot. And notice how consciously activating the inner thighs and the outer hip, you create a container for the movement. Shoulders still broad, neck in its natural curve, gaze perpendicular to the floor. You may want to ground your shoulder blades or even ground your low back ribs slightly to help you stabilize for the movement. And now hug your knees in, relax your core, and circle the legs. Circle the knees away from each other, back together again. And then take your circles the other way. And let's come into our series of 5. Draw your right knee in, left hand on inner knee, right hand on ankle. Lengthen your left leg out. Now consciously nod your nose towards your mouth and almost lift from your hairline. Activate your front neck flexors. Feel them activate. Lengthen the back of the neck. Now feel into the lengthened leg. Find on both legs the inner thigh and the outer buttock, and keep that container as you switch and switch and switch and switch. Some of you may float the head up. We reach and reach and reach, but we also aren't sloppy out to the sides because we're concentrating on inner thigh and outer buttock. And we reach and reach and reach and reach and reach, and then we hug both legs in. Reach hands and feet for the sky. Zip up the inner thighs. Take wrists and ankles away from each other. Circle the arms and hug the knees in. And reach out to your point of control. Feel the abdominal core activate and come in. We inhale out and we exhale in. And just one more. We reach, circle, and hug. Let your arms rest on the mat. Bring the right foot overhead, left foot long in your scissor. And we pulse, pulse. So now again, feel the muscles around the head of your femur bone, at your pelvis, into the connection, femur bone to spine. You're activating the inner core, but the shoulders can relax broad because we're training the lower abdominal core, the hip flexors, the outer hips, the adductors, to create a container for the movement. Flex your feet, pulse, 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 pulse. Try to make the movement just an inch. It's a tiny movement. We're not bouncing the legs. We're creating precision. Concentrate on the precision. Now floint your feet, which is pointing the foot and flexing the toes back. Now you're probably feeling your abdominal core. Can your shoulders still relax broad? And bring your legs together and bend the knees and hug the knees in and circle around the perimeter of your sacrum, keeping the knees together. Say good morning to your sacrum and to your SI joints. And take the circle the other way. So the concentration can move around pretty quickly. Right now we're feeling our sacrum and our SI joints. This core work can help stabilize them. And lift your legs back up to your tabletop. And toe dip, one foot towards the floor, exhale it up. Shoulders stay open and broad. Fluid breath. Keep the movement going. Shoulders relaxed, hands relaxed. You can stay with this single leg toe dip or bring both legs together. Hug the midline. Wake up your inner thighs and outer hips and toe dip both feet and come back up. So single leg toe dips are fine, or try your double leg toe dips. Maybe you don't go as far. We inhale down and exhale up. And inhale down and exhale up, long spine. And one more. Now come back up. Draw the knees into the chest and breathe deep into the belly. Take a few three-dimensional breaths, trying to feel the belly balloon towards the legs, towards the side bodies and the back. Three-dimensional breath. and float your legs back up to tabletop. Place one hand on top of the other behind your head and exhale. Lift the right elbow, lengthen the right leg and pause. Feel into the shoulder blade, lifting the ribs, connected to the reaching elbow, and rest your head into your hands. Lengthen the spine, lengthen out through the leg to the toe, but integrate into the pelvis. Now keep awareness of that and switch sides. Try it on the other side. Lifted shoulder, lifting the rib, reaching into the elbow, rest the head into the hands. Lengthen the leg and switch and switch and switch and switch. Feel into what muscles help you reach the elbow skyward and what muscles you have to let go to rest the head into the hands. We are not reaching up with the chin. We're reaching up with the elbows, with the toes, resting the head and hyoid bone back, and getting into our obliques. So what muscles work when you reach the right ribs across to the left hip pointer, the left ribs across to the right hip pointer? Feel them. Concentrate your awareness there. Now come back to the back shoulder again. Which muscle lifts the ribs and reaches up into the elbow? Which muscle groups? Feel them. And then rest your head back down and float one foot to the floor and then the other, and come back to your somatic walking. All right, we activated the core well in the series of 5, and now we're resting the spine. If you feel like your lumbar got overactivated, then there's some work we need to do to not activate that. And so let's talk about that after class. You want your lumbar to feel good here at the end of your series of 5. Now take your feet as wide as your mat and bring your hands overhead or open into a T and take your knees to the left. Or reach through the right side body and feel into the stretch, down the spine through the pelvis towards the knee and maybe even the arch of the foot. Feel your psoas pathway. Fluid breath. Breathe into the low right lumbar where the psoas muscle connects and try to spread it long. And then exhale, knees to center. Take the knees to the right and stretch the left side body from the spine through the pelvis to the inner thigh, to the knee, to the arch of the left foot. Breathe deep into the stretch. And come back to center. Press your pillow out and bring your ball in underneath your sacrum, ball block or oov. Remember, the block will be most stable. And place your thumbs on your low ribs and your fingers on your hip pointers. And float one leg into your tabletop and the other up to follow. Ribs reach for hip pointers, but we don't cat curl the spine. Feel for maintaining your natural lumbar curve. Shoulders broad. And now hug the legs together. Feel your inner thighs and your outer banks of the river, and open the left leg to the left and exhale it back to center, and open left and exhale left and inhale left and exhale left, and keep moving the left leg. Now as the left leg goes out, what happens to the left arm? Feel for it, concentrate on it. The left shoulder blade. How active does it become? And connect that left shoulder to the right buttock. There's your back myofascial sling. Stabilize left shoulder and right buttock. And come back to center. Hug the midline, activating inner thighs and outer buttocks. And open right leg to the right. And exhale to center. And inhale. And exhale. Feel into your right shoulder blade. Feel it working. Which muscles turn on? Connect across to the left buttock. Feel your back myofascial sling. And come back to midline. Now open the left leg again. This time, feel your front square. Place your thumbs on your ribs, your fingers on your hip pointers, and maintain this square. But connect your left moving leg hip pointer across to the right rib. Ground the back of the low right ribs. Which muscles do you use to stabilize? What do you need to keep active so that you don't fall over following the left leg? Come back to center. Now hug the midline, awaken your adductors and your outer buttocks, and open right. And exhale to center. This time concentrate on your front abdominal square. Keep it a square. Connect your right moving leg hip pointer to your left low ribs. Keep a strong line there so that this hip pointer doesn't flare out towards the floor on the right. You may not make your movement as big to keep the connection, right hip pointer to left low ribs. And come back to center. And toe dip your left foot towards the floor and exhale it up. And toe dip and exhale. What muscles are working? Where do you feel the effort? Now bring the feet together, open the knees a little wider, as wide as your shoulders, and toe dip. Does this change the location of the work? Does it change your awareness? You should come out of the lesser hip flexors and more into feeling your psoas. Feel from inner thigh up through pelvis towards spine. If you feel a tension there, then you've found your psoas. And come back up and lift the legs straight up towards the sky. Come into your Pilates V. Open the legs as wide as your mat. Take them down the mat, heels come together and up the center line. And we circle. Again, tune in to what you need so that your rib cage won't flare. And activate it before the legs go down the mat towards the foot of the mat. Can we wake it up? I know the leg movement is coming. I'm going to wake it up. I'm going to be conscious of activating from low ribs towards hip pointers, deep in the body. Now come up the midline and go down the center. Now what does it take to lift those legs back up and come to center? Feel for it. What is working? It's kind of a joyous awakening. It's like a hello. Wow, muscles. Hello. And one more. And now flex your feet above your head. Your knees can be bent if your hamstrings are tight. And very gently, don't go far, especially if you have long limbs. Take your left leg out just a little to the left and feel how your left shoulder activates. Connect it to your right buttock and draw back in and let it out. Use your inner thigh and outer hip to control the movement of the leg and in. It does not have to go far. Out and in. Now try the other side. If you're tall and long body, this is a harder task. You may want to come back to bent knees. And we inhale out, feel the activation and come back in. Connect right shoulder to left buttock. One more time. Good. And bring your right leg overhead, left leg long, and come into your bicycle. And take it slow. And breathe into the motion. And feel into what's working. So concentrate on this inner landscape. What muscle stops your legs from dropping to the floor when it gets closer to the floor at the bottom of the circle? What muscles pull the knee back in towards the chest? Feel into the complexity of the movement and how your pelvis kind of begins to do somatic walking inside the motion of your bicycle. Keeping the neck long, take your bicycles backwards. Fluid breath. Really feel into, yes, what muscle draws my leg back up? And what muscles stop it from dropping to the floor? Good morning, core. Come back up and bend your knees and float one foot to the floor and then the other. Release your ball from under your sacrum or your block and come back to your somatic walking. Again, check in with your low lumbar. It should feel okay after that work. Let your shoulders relax and your jaw release and just rock. Now, step your legs back into your tabletop. If you need a blanket under your pelvis, put it there. And bring your arms overhead with the ball in your hands. And then exhale. Just tap your shins with the ball, bringing the legs in. And then open, arms away from legs, and come back in and tap. Which muscles do you need to activate to stop yourself from overarching the back as you toe dip? Keep the ribs reaching for the hip pointers. Inhaling, open, and exhaling, close. And inhaling, that's right, Nadine, and exhaling, close. Yep, inhaling and exhaling, and one more. Now, place the ball between your ankles. And inhale, arms away from the ball, and exhale in. Gently hug the ball, but don't click your knees together. Inhaling out and exhaling in, create the banks of your river. Down the sides of your legs. And outer hip to ankle awareness. Now pause with the legs back in, ball still between your ankles, and place your hands one on top of the other behind your head. And exhale. Reach your left elbow for the sky as you draw the knees in. And inhale. Release the head down. Release the ball away from the chest. Exhale. Lift the right elbow. Draw the knees in. Inhale, down. Exhale. Right elbow. Inhale, down. Exhale, left elbow. Inhale, down. Exhale, lift and in. Inhale, open and down. 2 more sets. What muscles are working? And come down with the head. Take the ball in the hands and release back to the floor. Walk the soles of your feet together and let the knees open wide. Let yourself rest here with your 3-dimensional breath, breathing into the whole circle of your lowest ribs. Fluid breath. And walk your feet back up, heels aligned with sit bones. Press your pillow out if you have one in, and inhale, lift your pelvis. And lift your right hip higher than your left, and sway across and lift the left, and sway across to the right. And what muscles does it take to lift the right hip and lift the left hip? See if you can turn them on with your mind right before you lift the hip, so that you're consciously activating the muscle that lifts and lifts and lifts and lifts and lifts consciously. And come back to center. And with both buttocks, imagine what muscles it's going to take to lift the hips and lift. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold. Now think, what muscles will it take to draw my sit bones towards each other and activate them and release them and activate them and release them and activate and release, activate and release, activate and release. One more, release and lower. And nod your tailbone towards earth and your tailbone towards sky. And relax into the motion. Fluid breath. Check in with how your lumbar spine feels. And then come to neutral and roll over to your side. And fold your mat in under your forearm if you'd like and come into your clamshell position. Bring your top hand onto your hip and open the knees and close and open and close. Feel what muscles are working. And now close the knees. Feel into what muscles worked and activate them with your mind as you open the knee and close and open and close and open, close. Last one. Now lift your feet and open and close, open, close, open, close. Last one. And lengthen the legs and float the leg up and lower. 2 and 3, 4 and 5. Point your toe and circle. 2, 3, 4 and 5. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Bend the knees and rainbow your arm up overhead. Lift the bottom side body to lift the top side body. And just stretch, hips still on the floor. And release. You can stay with those or inhale and lift the hip, stretching overhead. And exhale, release. Inhale, lift. And exhale, release. Pause. Think of what muscles activated the lift and activate them with your mind and your body. And release. Concentrate on those muscles lifting you and releasing you. And one more. Lift and release. And let's switch sides. Come into your clamshell position. Heels aligned with your sit bones. Front hand, top hand on your hip. And we open and close. Ask yourself, what muscle can I activate to push the bottom leg into the floor? We open and close. Now you don't have to be up on your forearm here. You could be down. You could have a pillow under your head. Okay? So do what's best for your body. Some of you, this will help build up our body strength, but you don't have to be here. Now lift your feet. What muscles does it take to open the legs and close? And inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Feel it. Straighten the legs. Lift toe and heel evenly and lower. Feel what muscles are working as you lift and lower, lift and lower. Your legs are at a little bit of a diagonal out from your body. They're not straight down. Point your toe and circle. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Bend your knees and rainbow the arm up overhead. Lift the lower side body and release. Really feel into what muscles are working. And if you want to lift the hip and lower. And inhale and exhale. Concentrate on how the breath can help you lift and relax and lift and relax. Good. And now come on to your hands and knees. Okay, let's feel into something I think it's sort of hard for people to feel, which is the multifidi work. So bring in your block underneath your right shin, or you can choose which side actually you choose. Remember, you can put your forearms on a step stool if you'd like. Lift your leg, your hovering leg next to the leg on the block. And before you move, think, okay, what muscles do I use to do this? See if you can consciously come in connection with them. And then feel, releasing the shin towards the floor, what works to hold and stabilize the opposite side, and what works to lift the shin back to parallel with its friend. And lower and lift. Feel for what's working, getting to know your body, lowering and lifting, lowering and lifting. Try one more. And then pause, shins parallel to each other, and take the floating shin out to the side. Keep a tabletop at your sacrum and ask yourself, what muscles are working? Feel into the standing leg as well as the moving leg. What muscles are working? Feel in across your shoulders. What muscles are working? And release. Take it to the other side. It's a great work in awareness, isn't it? Come up with your shin, floating next to the shin on the block, and lower and lift and feel. Feel now into your abdomen, into the front Pilates square. What muscles help you to lift the lowering hip back up? Lift the lowering rib cage. Now lift back up and hold steady. What muscles are working? And open the leg out and bring it back in. Feel how your shoulders steady the moving limb. How the standing leg steadies the moving limb. And one more. And come down. Come off your block and inhale your cow and exhale your cat. And float your sit bones back towards your heels a little bit and breathe into the low back. Invite the back body to expand, the fascia to open, and then float forward and lengthen into your cow. Hips away from shoulders, neck and head long out of the pose. Breathe into the side spine, into the stretching front spine. Lengthen the back of the neck. Okay, so now I'm going to invite you to come into some plank work. I want you to take one leg back and press that foot's ball and toes down into the floor. Press the hands into the floor and see if you can lift the other shin just a little distance, maybe an inch off the floor. You can think of leveling your pelvis. So the leg is still dangling there towards the floor. Lengthen out of the neck and out through the tailbone. Hug in the banks of your river. And release. Bring the other shin towards the floor. Take the other foot back and press into the hands and foot evenly. Balance your pelvis. Hug in the banks of the river at the shoulders, at the hips. Feel for your inner thighs speaking to each other to create balance in the body. And release. And inhale your cow. And exhale your cat. Now everybody walk your knees back and come forward lifting your toes into your plank. So yeah, you could be using a dresser there, that's fine too. Now, we don't want to sag the buttocks. We're not coming into an upper dog. We're keeping long in the spine, even at the front of the neck. Feel each finger pad on the floor. Can you activate the fingers in such a way that you draw the front metacarpal knuckles onto the mat and have a little hollow in your palm, a little hollow for your carpal tunnel? And roll back, child's pose. Take a few fluid breaths in child's pose and let yourself enjoy a stretch, walking your hands around to the right. Inhale into the left side body. Now, how could you stretch the side body even more? What muscles will it take to reach the sit bone away from the hands? And as you do it, notice what muscles do that. And then breathe deep into the stretch. Then walk your hands back around to the other side, breathing into the right side body now. Reaching the right sit bone away from the hand, which muscles work? Fluid, deep, three-dimensional breath into the body to help it stretch open. And walk back to center. Bring your hands at least shoulder distance wide and roll your toes under and lift the pelvis. Knees stay bent. Right here in this downward dog, see, can you float one foot off the floor? Hug in the inner thighs and the banks of your river to keep the pelvis neutral. Lower the one lifted foot and lift the other foot. Keep the pelvis in neutral. And switch. And switch. And now lift both feet. Just kidding. Okay, walk your feet towards your hands. Bend your knees and unhinge. Come up to standing and reach for the sky. Interlace your fingers, thumbs to the base of the skull. Root the tailbone. Lift the base of the skull and the low back ribs and rest your head back. Reach your elbows for the sky. From the buttocks in the banks of the river, reach down into your outer heel. Hug the banks together and breathe energy up the center channel of the body. And if you'd like to, unfurl your arms. Reach from feet to fingers. And exhale, hands to your heart, and pause for a moment in mountain pose. Come into your three-dimensional breath. Okay, so I brought us back up to standing because I want us to do a little more of the side lying leg work standing. So bring your block in towards your wall and come to stand on your block with enough distance from the wall that your arm can comfortably hold you out. Remember, the hand may want to be a little forward of the shoulder. That might be better for your shoulder socket. And then bring your outer hand to your hip. So we want these hips level, but let's practice for a second, floating one foot next to the other. And then like we just did in the tabletop pose, lower your foot, let the hip lower, and then lift the pelvis. And just a gentle lower and lift. What muscles work? Feel deeply into the standing leg. What muscles work? And now lift to your neutral and let the legs swing. And try to just let it swing easily, releasing the femur bone in the hip socket. So you're just letting go the toes, the ankle, the knee, and the hip. And then I want you to try to swing this knee up to the chest without dropping the chest towards the knee, and release the leg. And up, and release, and up, and release. Heart stays lifted, gaze towards the mountaintop. And just, we're letting it go. Part of what we're doing is releasing the femur bone out of the hip socket so that we'll have a little more fluid motion. And now, lift the knee up, extend the leg out, and come into your bicycle motion. Keep the heart lifted. Remember the banks of your river and feel for what muscles are working. And now see, can you bicycle backwards? And can you keep the motion fluid? The heart lifted. Feel for the working muscles. And release. Let's try the other side. So we step up onto our block. And at first, we're going to lower the foot just a little and then float it up next to its friend. And lower and lift and lower and lift. Feel for what's working in your standing leg. Feel what's working in your abdomen, your pelvis, your spine. And then float up to neutral and let the legs swing. And once you get it going, see, can you let go the leg and just let it swing? Keeping the heart lifted, the gaze lifted. Letting the femur bone go. It may be hard to let go. Try to let go. And then swing the knee towards the chest and release. Swing and release. Swing and release. We're not releasing the pelvis. The pelvis stays stable. We're releasing the femur bone out of the pelvis. If we release the pelvis, we could throw the SI joints off. Stay stable in the pelvis. And now lift up and come into your forward bicycle. It's complicated, all the muscles that are working here, isn't it? Can you keep the heart lifted? Feel into the work of the standing leg. And then bicycle backwards. Lift the knee, reach back, lift and reach. Can you keep the shoulders stable? Make the circle as small or as large as is okay in your body. Really nice lift to everyone's hearts. Beautiful gaze at the mountaintop. We're not looking down at the leg. Beautiful. And enough. Step down. Shake out a leg. Shake out your other leg. Shake it, shake it, shake it, and shake it. And then come back up onto the first leg that you stood on. And stand tall with your lifted heart, your lifted gaze, hand on your outer hip, and float the leg out to the side. And come back in and out. Now as you float out, notice if you want to lean in. Can you keep the spine long and lift with the muscles of the outer leg? A lift and lower, lift and lower. One more. Lift and lower. Now take the foot slightly forward, out to the side and in, and circle. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And step down. Come up onto the other side. And take the leg out. I'm going to have to come further out than that. So you might have to work with the outer leg. I know people are working with their spaces in their rooms too. Some of you may be able to do it without a wall. We take it out and in. Lift the heart. Lift the gaze. We're not watching the legs. We out and in and out and in. Do one more. And then bring the foot forward, out, back, and around, and circle. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And circle the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And step down and shake a leg. Shake the other leg. And pause in your mountain pose. We did a lot to wake up the legs today. Pat your buttocks. Pat down the outer edges of the leg. Acknowledge these banks to your river. Come back to your mountain pose and gently hug the banks in. Remember, it's a hug, not a grip. Hug in. Now activate your adductors like you're hugging your knees into the ball. And from the inner thigh, root down into the big toe ball mound and inner heel. Reach across to the pinky toe ball mound and outer heel and lengthen up the outside of the leg. Come to the inside of the thigh and reach down into the big toe ball mound and inner heel. Lift your arch. Lift up the inner thigh. Lift up the pelvic floor. Lift up the length of your spine all the way through the neck and out the top of the head. Now, come to the pinky toe ball mound and outer heel and lift up the outer leg all the way through the buttock and hip up to the armpits. Broaden your shoulders and rest on the lift from under your armpit that comes all the way up from the feet. Now see, can you rest there into your breath? So we've overactivated maybe to the point of some strain. We're concentrating so hard. Now we've got to relax it a little and come back to a fluid breath where we can activate these muscles but not overactivate them. Try to find that fluid breath. Okay. So now I'd like you to find a wall or a dresser, keeping these inner thighs, outer thighs, spinal length in mind. We're going to come hands onto the wall and come towards our half dog. Remember, you don't have to be parallel to the floor, but you can be. And how you decide that is based on the tightness of your hamstrings and low back. We want your low back in its neutral curve. Now, come into your half dog, wherever that is, whatever diagonal your spines sit resting in, and then feel from your buttocks down into your heels. Hug your buttocks in around the bone. Feel like you're creating a little shell of strength around your buttocks. Now lift the pelvic floor and lengthen the spine through the top of the head. And float one leg up behind you. Hug in the banks of your river. Feel the outer legs hug midline even in the asymmetry they're in. Feel the side bodies hug even up to the armpits, and perhaps you lift off the wall, perhaps not. Perhaps you come to fingertips. Keeping the neck long as well, we release the foot. And let's just walk into the wall. And let's inhale and lift into a standing cobra. Tailbone roots from the outer hips, root down into the outer heel and pinky toe ball mount. From the inner arches of the feet, draw energy up the inner thigh, up through the pelvic floor, up along the outer edges of the spine, all the way through the neck and head. Rest the head back onto the shoulder blades and lift the heart. Fluid breath. So I didn't mean rest the head onto the shoulder blades. I meant rest the heart onto the shoulder blades. Lengthen the neck. Feel your front neck flexors working. Hug in the banks of your river. Check that your knees aren't hyperextending and relax into the cobra, finding the hug, not the grip, not the strain. And walk back towards your half dog. In your half dog, lift the arches of your feet, draw energy up to the inner thigh. Gently hug the ball. From the outer big toe or pinky toe ball mound and outer heel, hug up the outer edges of the legs to your buttocks. Lift the pelvic floor and lengthen the spine and float your next leg up behind you. Feel energy run along the front of the spine to support it. Maybe you come to your fingertips. Maybe you lift off the wall. Fluid breath. And we release and pause for a moment in mountain. Now walk away from your wall But bring your hands up onto an imaginary wall, fingers at the shoulder height. Rest onto your heels. Feel the natural curve of your spine and root the tailbone. Draw up the banks of your river into your armpits. Draw up from the arches of your feet through the pelvic floor up the neck. And slowly lengthen the spine skyward. Lift the heart. Isometrically draw down on your imaginary wall with your palms. Lift the heart. Lift the shoulder blades to lift the heart. Curl back open over that lifting heart, those shoulder blades supporting you. Long back of neck. Now check in. Are you concentrating so hard that you've hyperextended your knees and you're gripping the body? If so, how can you relax into your own strength? Activating a hug, not a grip. And release. Pause in your mountain pose. And feel how nice it is to come into mountain. And come back to your three-dimensional breath. Breathe into the back body. And see if you can allow the back body to expand. Breathe into your side waists. See if you can invite the side waist to expand. And breathe into the front belly. And breathe a lift to the heart center. Soften so that the body can open. Now feel for your diaphragm, which connects to the whole circle of your lowest ribs, and feel for it descending into the abdomen. Feel for it mushrooming up under the lungs. This is a muscle we want conscious awareness of. Inhale, let the diaphragm balloon into the abdomen. And as you exhale, feel for it mushrooming up under the back of the lungs. Fluid breath. Don't demand too deep a breath, but you can do a little deeper than normal to try to feel the diaphragm moving. Bring your arms up into cactus position. See if this helps you find the breath. Find the diaphragm. Reach the arms towards the sky and feel for the diaphragm. Feel for it moving from the whole circle of the lowest ribs. You may feel a stretch around the circle of the ribs. Open back into your cactus position. Open your legs, turn your feet out, and let the knees bend. And exhale, pinkies towards each other. Cat curl your spine. Pause there and take a deep inhale up the back. Exhale, open the hands, lift the heart, stretch from elbow to elbow. Breathe into the front chest. Exhale, the movement, and inhale into the low back body. Let the breath roll up the back ribs. And continue exhaling the opening. Inhale, fill the front body and the side waists. And as you're ready, exhale, move and feel for the inhale in the whole circumference of your torso, but particularly into the side of the body that you're opening. Come back into your cactus position and gently release your elbow of your left elbow towards your left femur. Breathe into the right side body. Feel for the right ribs stretching apart slightly. Come back to center. Slightly side bend to the right. Breathe into the left ribs, into the left side waist, and come back up. Gently twist. It doesn't have to be far to the left. Inhale, breathe into the whole circumference of your torso. Feel for a movement of the intestines, a movement of the organs. And exhale, unwind. Inhale, gently twist right. Find that right shoulder blade on the back ribs and inhale. Stretch the body with the breath. And exhale, release. Remember, your diaphragm is helping you create this breathing pattern. Feel for it. And come back to center and release your arms and step your feet into your Pilates V. Rest your head and shoulders back over your buttocks and heels. Relax your arms. Hug in your inner thighs. Hug in your outer legs and create your mertail. Rooting into the four corners of the feet. Broaden across your shoulder girdle. Feel strength course up your body from your feet. Hug yourself from the outer body in. And then bend your knees. And lift to the balls of your feet and zip up and lower your heels and bend. Lift, zip and lower. Bend, lift, zip and lower. Now lift and bend and lower and zip and lift, bend, lower and zip, lift, bend, lower and zip and pause. Bring your arms up overhead. Take a deep breath into the whole circumference of your torso. Exhale, root your feet, draw energy into that center channel of the spine, that center channel of the legs hugging together, and bend. Lift to the balls of your feet, zip it up and lower, bend, lift, zip and lower, bend, lift, zip and lower, and lift and hover. Lengthen through the top of your head. Hug in the banks of your river and release. And let's inhale in to our ability to concentrate on the muscles in our bodies, our ability to concentrate on the breath, and our ability to make sure the concentration doesn't turn into strain. Let's inhale into a wonderful Aware Wednesday for all of us. Thank you. Okay, so that was a little different today.